Welcome to Man in America, a voice of reason in a world gone mad. I'm your host, Seth Holhouse. So as we look at what's happening under the Trump administration, and as I've been really kind of trying to bring attention to, I'm seeing, being objective here, I'm seeing a lot of different actions that I feel like are leading us more into some sort of potential technocratic system where this digital infrastructure has more and more control. And there's a lot of red flags I'm seeing. The Palantir, kind of integration into the government, big tech CEOs and big tech, standing up behind Trump. What is their agenda? Even RFK Jr. the past couple of days coming out saying literally, quote, as I'll play the video in this interview, saying that his vision is for every American to be wearing a wearable technology in the next 4 years, which is really, really strange that he would say that. Like, why is that important? Do you want to make America healthy again? Start by banning the COVID vaccine and then go look at the childhood schedule. And there you go. You can make America more healthy, get rid of the autism you're talking about so much, and that much more. So I have a lot of questions about this, but joining me today is my good friend, Dr. Henry Ealy. And I appreciate him because he's a truth teller. He doesn't try to say niceties so you like him. He says what's on his heart and what he believes to be true. And so this is going to be really a very candid, very frank, honest, sober discussion about where the country is heading and whether or not there is some sort of Klaus Schwab-esque, transhumanist agenda that's seeping into the fabric of the American culture and the fabric of our society, because we need to be vigilant in watching for this stuff. So please enjoy the interview with Dr. Henry Ealy. You probably think your 401k is safe, that it's growing, that it'll be enough for your retirement. But what if it's not? Here's the truth most people never hear. Your 401k was never designed to make you wealthy. It was created in a corporate boardroom to shift retirement costs and investment risk onto you. Designed to keep your money trapped, exposed to Wall Street crashes, inflation, and uncertainty you can't control. Until now. Right now, Americans are taking back control by turning to real assets like gold and silver. Noble Gold Investments has helped thousands protect their future by converting part of their retirement savings into physical gold and silver so they can stop worrying about the market and start sleeping better at night. So talk to Noble Gold today and learn how safe and easy it is to roll over your 401k into a tax-advantaged precious metals IRA without penalties or headaches. Visit goldwithseth.com or call 626-654-1906 to get your free wealth protection kit, including a step-by-step guide to get started. It's time to get your money out of the danger zone and into something real. Again, that's 626-654-1906 or goldwithseth.com. Dr. Henry Ealy, man, is it so good to have you back on. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, Seth, thanks for having me back. And big shout out to everybody in your audience. Thanks for all the love and support and everything. We really, really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. Actually, it's funny because we just were on this interview for like 2 or 3 weeks ago. And of course, I could do weekly interviews with you and never get bored. But I was scrolling through my Twitter feed. I refuse to call it X. To me, X is almost like you're taking something and making it even more transhumanist, but it's calling it like a single letter X, right? And isn't it, right. I think it was Derek Bros I was talking to who told me that in the transhumanist kind of organizations that you have to kind of give your children a name it's like a numerical name. And so people like look at Elon Musk and how he named his one child is some weird kind of name, that it's actually part of the whole transhumanist agenda to move into these just numerical and alphabetical kind of numbers and codes for things. Anyway, I'm kind of digressing a little bit there.
Did he talk about why?
No.
It's to get you away from naming children based upon biblical names and naming them based upon angelic names.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
They want everybody completely dissociated with anything relevant to or that would allude to a sacred text.
Wow, interesting. Well, I was always happy with the origin of Seth. I think that Seth was the name Seth. I think he was one of Noah's sons, if I remember correctly.
I'm not familiar.
No. Either way, it's kind of continuing onto the topic
it's a
at hand.
Name though, right?
It is. Right. Yeah, it is. I forget it's on top of my tip of my tongue. So I was scrolling through my Twitter feed and I came across a recent clip of RFK talking about wearables, which I'll play the clip. And I thought immediately, I got to get Dr. Ely on to talk about this because this is right up your alley. And I see you almost every comment RFK puts out there, I'll see your reply to it on there. It's like you're just hammering, which is really good.
And just to be fair, I want everybody to know I'm not just a hammer, I'm objective. And so President Trump pulled apparently the funding from Gavi. You have to confirm that. I don't want the headline. I want to see the actual line item and the dollars pulled out. And I'm sure that was due to some of RFK Jr.'s influence. And so you want to give credit where credit is due. That is, in my opinion, so far of all the moves I've seen, that has been the best move. Pulling money from these really Kabbalistic, demonic organizations is a good move always.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I saw that over the past couple of days as well, because I think RFK put a statement out about it, and and how Gavi wasn't kind of doing the proper vaccine research, and so. But
here's let me jump on that one real quick. Okay, why wouldn't you do that earlier than you did it? Why did it coincide right after this very poorly received commentary on wearables?
Oh, that's true. See, you think that it was kind of he's trying to kind of bring people back in, right?
So the way this stuff kind of works for them and behind the scenes is they have a list of how much ground they can give on certain things. Like today on thimerosal, saying we just won't recommend it to pregnant women. You're not recommending mercury to pregnant women? How 1990 of you? I can go get you some dial-up internet if you like. So like what we have to do is understand that when they take a lot of heat, they have something sitting there waiting that they can give us to try to placate us. And so the thing that is trying to placate us is we'll pull from Gavi. Now they say they pull from Gavi, but we know Gavi is Bill Gates, and we know Bill Gates' fingerprints are all over this HHS. So that might be something where they said, well, we're going to do it. And you think they're going to do it, but if you don't go and follow up and check and make sure that they actually did it, it just became a headline to win the conversation and steer you away from talking about this absolute fiasco of everybody's going to be wearing wearables in the next 4 years, which of course syncs up with their Agenda 2030 milestones. So, we have to start having conversations. We have to understand they're ahead of us in terms of how they understand how we think and how we work. They have so much data. Of course, they're ahead of us. You have to be aware that when they are saying something and they look like they're giving us something, we haven't really been given anything. It was part of their, we can give them this if they need a crumb, we can give them this. Nothing of significance will have occurred, Seth, until the pharmaceutical companies are suing the HHS. When they are suing the HHS, now we have something going that they hadn't planned for. But until we see the pharmaceutical companies suing Robert F. Kennedy Jr. or this administration, this is all part of the plan.
It's all charade. It's interesting. I'll play the clip. I just had a quick thought. You mentioned that they're monitoring and they're gauging the reaction. And my first thought, I was like, oh wow, I wonder if they're actually kind of looking at Twitter and seeing what the public response is. But then I thought to myself, why do that? They've got Palantir. They're merging Twitter data with literally with heart rates, and then they can say, wow, within this large amount of conservatives in this database, we saw that this particular comment increased the emotional kind of rage frequency by 17%. And that's literally what they're probably doing as they're, and you're probably on the top of some Palantir list.
Yeah. Why
Me
else
too.
would they want your biometric data?
Exactly.
The biometric data gives them ability to control what is going on. It doesn't mean they're going to change their trajectory on anything. And that's why I say we have to wait until we see a lawsuit. A lawsuit means that the plan isn't going according to plan and that there's some disruption between the government and the ruling whatever elite that are dictating everything. Until we see that, nothing has happened.
I see. So it's kind of like without a lawsuit, basically what that's telling us is that we're still pretty happy with how things are going at HHS from the perspective of Big Pharma. Well, let me, I'll go ahead and play that video now. It's a short one. And then I've got a follow-up video of Klaus Schwab, which I'll play those back to back, and then we'll kind of dive head into this. So here's RFK, 22 seconds.
Their diet, about their physical activity, about the way that they live their lives. We think that wearables are a key to the MAHA agenda, making America healthy again. And we are going to, my vision is that every American is wearing a wearable within 4 years.
And I'll just comment really quickly. I'll let you comment as well. But that seems like a strange statement, right? My vision is that every American is wearing a wearable within 4 years. Like that's not something that you would just say casually. It's almost like he was supposed to say that. It's so precise that my vision is that every American is wearing a wearable in the next 4 years. What do you think?
Well, it suits right up with their intention for the enslavement of humanity. You know, it syncs up with Agenda 2030. It syncs up with the advent of the smart city, the 15-minute city. It syncs up with the increased usage of the W-band network, the wide body area access network. You folks, you have to start doing some reading. And this is, Seth, where I will take people straight to, because the easy thing is we say something, it sounds outlandish. And it is outlandish. It's absolutely psychopathic when you hear what they're talking about. But you have to then go and follow the money. So then what I've been doing this week is taking people to Purdue University. They have a Center for Internet of Bodies. They have a funded center at Purdue University for the Internet of Bodies. And this is the conversation we have to get out to people. All of these little baby steps that don't seem to sync up are actually to get you into the transhumanistic agenda. There you go. World's first center for the Internet of Bodies right there. All of this is to make this normal, transhumanism normal. All of this is to the X, changing Twitter to X and going dark. And all of this is to normalize it. So it's this slow kind of turning up of the pot, you know, the frogs in the pot kind of thing. It's that slow turning up of it. And this is our time where we have to be exceptionally vocal, ambivalent. And I mean, I'm openly hostile to it. And I'm not going to hide that because of somebody's feelings or something like that. I was raised, my father, I was raised on Dr. Seuss and Harriet Tubman and, you know, and Frederick Douglass. My father drilled into me what slavery is so that I could see it wherever it was, even by a different name. And when we get into the history of our country, we have a couple of very important events that have taken place that take us into this conversation, Seth. All right. On June 19th, 1865, we have Juneteenth. We have the official end of the Civil War with General Order Number 3 executed in Galveston, Texas, right? So now the war's over. Everybody's free. They didn't have a plan for that. So the powers that be that realized they were losing control over the country spent the next 6 years coming up with the Act of 1871. The Act of 1871 creates Washington, D.C., and turns our country from a republic into a corporation. If you want to verify this, you can go to Dun & Bradstreet, and you can see that the United States is a corporation on Dun & Bradstreet. You can go and see that the United States Supreme Court is on the same thing. The United States Supreme Court is a corporation. Our Supreme Court isn't a branch of government. It's a corporation. All right. And these are crazy things to come in contact with because that's not what we've been taught at all through civics or anything that we've learned. We thought that these were independent, but it starts explaining why isn't the system working? Because the system is working exactly the way it's designed. It's not designed for us. What they figured out at the end of slavery was they were thinking too low. They only saw Black people as slaves. They didn't see poor people of all different, you know, whether you're immigrant, whether you're white, it didn't matter. They didn't see everybody else as slaves. And they said, you know, we can do this better. So what they started erecting was a structure of control. And this starts with in the late 1800s and the 1880s. You have it's about 1871 this starts. You have the advent of the eugenicist movement. Now, the eugenicists are crazy people. All right. These are psychopaths with money, but they are smart enough to realize nobody's going to be able to understand, let alone figure out what eugenicism is. So they rebrand themselves. They call themselves progressives. And so now anybody who's in the world that's calling themselves a progressive is also calling themselves a eugenicist. And that's where you see what are the progressive movements of today. The progressive movements of today are climate change, right? We have to do everything we can to stop climate change. Never mind that, yeah, the climate is changing because they're changing it. You see, these chemtrails we see in the sky, they're to drop down aluminum and barium and, of course, genetically modified organisms. We inhale those in. Those are going to short circuit our body. That's what aluminum in the human body does. If you want to do a quick search on aluminum and Parkinson's, for example, you'll find over 200,000 studies on this. We have all the data in the world to know what aluminum does. But what a lot of people don't know about aluminum, Seth, is that aluminum is also, when it gets into the soil, going to stunt root growth. And it's going to cause crop collapse. Okay. And it's going to also promote fungal and yeast infections in the human body and fungal infections on our crops. So they get what they want in that here's a problem that we created, but we're going to blame the sun. We're going to blame carbon. We're going to blame carbon emissions. We're all carbon beings. If you read through what they have agreed to, they want to get down to zero carbon emissions. That means there is no life on this planet if we have zero carbon emissions. I wrote a peer-reviewed paper on this. So where it takes us to is this deeper understanding of this bigger agenda. And that's where you see the Internet of Bodies at Purdue University, the first one. Well, that's the first. If you don't think there's going to be more centers for Internet of Bodies at major universities throughout this country, you are tripping. Bill Gates is going to fund all of that. And what we have to do now is we have to have this honest conversation about we are being marched back into slavery by a different name. And if we don't have the courage to have this conversation, then we are dooming our children. And I refuse to let that happen.
Well, I'll pull this up right here. Patent number 060606, which I'm sure you're familiar with. And this is a patent to harvest body energy, right? To mine cryptocurrency using body activity data. So you have a human body down there, it shows, you have a sensor, you have the user device, such as an Apple Watch or a wearable, that then it connects to a communication network that goes into probably a server, cryptocurrency systems. But I wonder who the patent holder is for this. Oh, you never would have guessed it. Microsoft Technology. My goodness. But let me just play this quick video of Klaus Schwab. This is 51 seconds, and we'll play this because actually, funny enough, look at patent 060606. You look at RFK. Everyone's wearing a wearable in the next 4 years. Let's play this right here, Klaus Schwab from the horse's mouth, and let's see what he has to say. Let's see if this person says seems like the WEF has rebranded itself as MAGA and MAHA. Well, let's see what Klaus Schwab has to say.
Aujourd'hui, au bout de ça, on parle de puces qu'on pourra s'implanter. Ce sera.
Actually, what I'm going to do for people that are listening on the audio, I'm going to read the translation to this over top of it because it's not in English, I don't think. The guy says, today, at the end of this, we are talking about chips that can be implanted. When will that be? Klaus Schwab, certainly the next 10 years. At first, we'll implant them in our clothes. And then we can imagine that we will implant them into our brains or in our skin. And in the end, maybe there will be a direct communication between our brain and the digital world. What we see is a kind of fusion of the physical, digital, and biological world.
We think that wearables are a key to the MAHA agenda, making America healthy again. And we are going to, my vision is that every American is wearing a wearable within 4 years.
So there you go. And Klaus Schwab saying it starts off with wearing them on our body, on our skin. The next step, implants. You look at Elon Musk. What's Elon Musk building? Neuralink,
Implants.
brain implants, the merger of man and machine. The atheist view of evolution is that man evolves through technology. Anyway, so
Yep.
I'll pass it back over to you.
Yeah, that's it. And this is where we have to wake up right now. You know, one of my curiosities as a child is my father's teaching me about Harriet Tubman. You know, I mean, you want to talk about the most badass woman in U.S. history. This woman not only gets herself out of slavery, goes through the Underground Railroad to get herself out of slavery. She has at least 16 recorded trips back to the South, never lost one person that she was liberating. And how did she do that? She carried a gun. And she told every single person that was going with her, if you give up our position, they might get us, but I'm going to kill you first. Now that's serious. And we need to have that kind of seriousness right now because she understood the horrors of slavery, having lived in it. We don't have that perspective yet. We don't have the understanding of just how horrible what they are proposing is because they have gotten fantastic at marketing and selling us a lie. The first lie is the climate change. The second lie is going to be this 15-minute smart city where everything you need is right there. They learned from their fiasco with Hitler. You have to remember, these are the same families that funded Hitler that are funding this right now. They learned that humanity, when you try to force them into something, you will be met with opposition, violent opposition. But if you make humanity afraid, and if you sell convenience, then what you are going to do is sell safety and convenience to people that are otherwise afraid. And of course, they're susceptible to being afraid because you have seeded them with so many pre-programmed ideas of how horrible things were or could be if they don't do what you tell them to do. This is the idea of them raising sheep. We instead of raising eagles in this country for the last, 100 years plus, we've been raising sheep. The last eagles were really the World War II generation. Those were the last ones. When you ask them why they didn't want to do something, F you. That's why I don't want to do it. Now, do you want to get into it more? What a great eagle attitude. I am a predator. I don't need your permission to do anything. What they figured out was, okay, they don't want to be forced into it, but can we teach them to buy into it and actually pay us for their own imprisonment, for their own poisoning, for their own injury, for their own death? Can we get them to do that? And they did. This is where we are today. We pay for our own poisoning. We pay for our own enslavement. We pay for all of these things because they have sold it to us as something that is either safe for us or something that is going to be convenient for us. Now, Seth, you're a dad. Do you need your washing machine to be smart?
No, actually, we vehemently oppose like every device that I buy, like, our stovetop is that I bought an older model. We have a Wolf, right? Beautiful, nice. The new ones are really expensive. I found an old one on Facebook Marketplace for a couple $1,000s. Old one, smart one. Same with our fridge. We've got a Sub-Zero fridge, brand new, really expensive. I found an old one on Facebook Marketplace. It's not smart, a couple $1,000s, right? Everything that we buy, I'm putting in AC units here, and I had to put a mini split in for cooling. I found the non-smart version, right? So almost everything that we do, we try everything possible. No smart, no Alexa, none of that stuff. But anyway, you were asking me, right? You're saying as a dad, do I need a smart, water? No, heck no.
Right. Well, and this is the thing. Like, I go into people's houses, and when Alexa's on, I go and unplug it. They don't know I do it, but whenever I see an Alexa, I unplug it. I'm like, yeah, and while I'm here, we're not having a recorded session, and everything, right? Like when I was growing up, when you were growing up, there must have been much more conversations because right to privacy was a very real comment. It was a very real phrase, and that you have a right to privacy that, and this comes from out of this World War II generation that was very animate about their privacy because privacy and freedom go hand in hand. We don't hear those conversations anymore. We don't hear these conversations about you have a right to your medical privacy. You have a right to the privacy of your own decisions, blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, tell everybody, put it out on social media. There's no privacy, virtue signal and all this other stuff. Well, when we start looking at this whole idea of wearables, it starts, I'm a big believer in when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. RFK Jr., and this is what I want to bring to everybody's attention, has a pretty nasty laundry list forming right now. There's a couple of things like the Gavi you could give up. If you want to celebrate Skittles or Fruit Loops, go right ahead. I'm not going to celebrate either of those. If you want to do a cartwheel over beef tallow in a fast food restaurant, that doesn't move my needle whatsoever. What does move my needle, and in the wrong direction, however, is the Arcturus 2304 mRNA self-amplifying shots that got fast-tracked on April 10th. That moves my needle. My thing is, we sent you in, bro. We sent you in to take vaccines off the schedule, not to add more, and certainly not to fast track any of these shots, right? Not to fast track any of these shots that are self-amplifying. Now, what's crazy, Seth, when you get in this, and I'm just going to keep talking about this all the time, we have to have this conversation. With that particular platform, what did they promise us? Transparency, radical transparency, right? That's the marketing phrase. No longer will there ever be a vaccine that goes into a clinical trial and is not tested against a truly inert placebo, meaning like salt water, saline. Well, you go and look at the clinical trials on this, and what do you find? Arcturus 2304, mRNA self-amplifying shot. Why am I so concerned about it? I'm not getting the shot, right? And why am I concerned? Because it's self-amplifying. That means whether you get the shot or not, you're going to come in contact with somebody who got the dang shot. And when they get the dang shot, you're going to get vaccinated. You're going to be exposed to the same thing that their body cannot stop producing. Okay, that's how it all works. This is why this is Alamo moment for us on this one. Well, I went into the clinical trials on it, and what did we find? You go to clinicaltrial.gov, you look up the Arcturus 2304 platform, and what do you see in there? They're not testing it against a placebo. They're testing it against two other shots. The Arcturus, the control group, which is supposed to get the placebo, will get the first shot will be the Arcturus shot. The second shot will be the first generation bird flu, H5N1 bird flu. Okay, that's what they're testing it against. So you just lied to us. And you can see it right there. There's the little hyperlink to it. You just lied to us. You just told us that you were going to be testing against it, and you're not testing against it. Right? Look how easy that was for you to find, Seth. You didn't know we were going in this direction. But when you look at these studies and you start reading through, and I think is it still July 21st? Yeah, July 21st is the phase 1 completion. Right? When you look at the studies, you say, well, why do we need this? Well, now I got another piece of that information of why they say we need this right now. I was talking with Farmer Joel Salatin. I was just interviewing him before I came on for my radio show. And I was like, this doesn't make sense to me. Why did they choose the bird flu? The Arcturus 2304 is the H5N1 bird flu shot. Okay, that's what they're doing. And so I asked him a question that I'd always been curious about. Do you, as a farmer producing chicken and cow and, pigs, do you have the authority still at this point in time to say, I'm not getting any of my animals vaccinated? And he was like, yes, that noose is tightening, his words. But as of today, every farmer in the country chooses whether or not their animals are vaccinated. Oh, that's awesome. I didn't realize that. I thought there would be a lot of regulation kind of mandating it. You'd have to jump through all these hoops. He's like, nope. As of today, I can just say we're not doing it. Okay. And there's a bunch of farms out there that are doing it. I highly encourage you to call your farmers and buy as local as you can and make sure that they're not using any of these shots. So if you start putting two and two together, you realize there's a huge market that they haven't tapped yet. There's this huge market of not only mandatory vaccines for children, not only mandatory vaccines for specific segments of the adult workforce, but there can be mandatory vaccinations for all livestock in this country. And if you can push those things through, what else do you get? Automatic liability protection from the 1986 National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act and the PrEP Act, if it's considered for emergency use, which the Arcturus 2304 is. You get double protection. So now when these mRNA self-amplifying shots start wiping people out, no big deal. That's just part of the agendas. It's part of Agenda 2030, 2050, 2075. It's part of the agendas to get the world population down to a very manageable. I think what they had it listed at for 2075 was 500 million.
You know, I'm creeping up on 40 now, and let me tell you, my body is feeling it. Between chasing my two little girls around, getting climbed on like a jungle gym, and constantly being on dad duty, my back and knees are basically begging for a break by the end of the day. I used to bounce back faster after a workout or a long day outside, but now, not so much. That's why I'm excited to share something that's really made a difference for me, Qualia Senolytic. It's a first-of-its-kind formula designed to help your body naturally eliminate senescent cells. Basically, these are zombie cells that hang around long after they're useful and just clutter things up, making you feel stiff, tired, and old. So here's the deal. These zombie cells can seriously drag down your energy, slow your recovery, and make your joints ache. But Qualia Senolytic is packed with 9 plant-based vegan compounds that are clinically tested to clear out those zombie cells, helping you feel years younger. And the best part is that you only take it 2 days a month. So literally just twice a month you take it. So I've been using it for a few months now, and honestly, it's been a game changer. My soreness is way down, my recovery is faster, and I've got more energy to keep up with my little girls. So if you want to experience the science of feeling younger, go to qualialife.com/Seth for up to 50% off your purchase and use the promo code Seth for an additional 15% off. That's qualialife.com. That's QUALIA life.com/Seth for an additional 15% off your purchase. And folks, your older self will thank you. And a big thanks today for Qualia for sponsoring my show today.
Or something like that. Like that was the target goal for it, right? And when you start putting that together, you have to understand we're at a little over 8 billion right now. That's a lot of people that not only are going to die, that's a lot of people that aren't going to be replaced through procreation. And now it starts making sense of why would you have these shots and the chemtrails and the 5G? Why would they all, how do they all work together? Well, they all work together to kill people, and they all work together to enslave people, and they all work together to reduce fertility. That's what they all work together to do. Why do you think they don't want you using tobacco? Because tobacco disables some of their bioweapons, and because it also, tobacco inspires male testosterone. Guess why they don't want you taking in any cholesterol? Because every single reproductive hormone is based upon cholesterol. And so if they tell you your cholesterol levels are too high, and let's say your cholesterol levels in the United States units are at 200, 225. As a doctor, I'm like, that's great. That's where they need to be. You know, I'm okay with they even being a little bit higher. But they're going to tell you that they need to be under 180. And now they're starting to move into lower than 150, which means that you don't have enough cholesterol to make these important reproductive hormones. And that's right where they want you, because now instead of you being an eagle, you get to become a sheep. All right. And
I'll pull up one quick thing for you, because it just came out. You're talking about depopulation. A peer-reviewed study of 1.3 million people in the Czech Republic found that in 2022, vaccinated women had 33% fewer successful conceptions per 1,000 than unvaccinated. A 33% or a reduction, right? They had 33% fewer successful conceptions. It's like you put this with everything you're talking about. And then you get into Bill Gates's father. You get into Margaret Sanger. And oh my goodness.
You want to go there? We can go way into all that, right?
Well, you warned me we're going to have some fun today, so I'm just throwing out some softballs for you.
Right. Well, I mean, what is Margaret Sanger? Margaret Sanger, of course, is the founder of Planned Parenthood, and what is she advocating for? Birth control. What you have to understand is the eugenicists give themselves away. First of all, they call themselves progressives.
Yeah. Well, so it's family planning, right?
Right. Exactly. We're going to plan your family. Oh, really? I can plan that pretty well. Just give me a night with my lady. We'll plan it just fine. Right. So that's that. Margaret Sanger comes on the scene. It's not an accident that where does Margaret Sanger's first clinic show up in? Do you know
Black neighborhoods,
her whole story?
Right?
Yeah, black neighborhoods. She went straight to Harlem. Her first Her first clinic, this is what you have to understand. Margaret Sanger opens up the first abortion clinic. This is how psychopathic we become and how quickly things can be accepted by future generations. When Margaret Sanger opens up her first clinic, she opens up in Harlem, and she opens it up, of course, to be able to kill Black babies. Margaret Sanger was a noted racist. She published, and in her writings, it is easy to see how she felt about Black people. It was clear. She was a eugenicist to the hilt. Now, she is trying to do something never done in this country before, aborting babies of any race. And now, of course, I'm not saying it never happened. Of course it happened. I'm saying she's trying to create a business out of it, right? And all this. She could not get any doctors to go and perform those DNCs. So she and a bunch of unqualified nurses started performing those DNCs. And within a week or two, I forget how long it was, she had the authorities firing down on her, and she had to flee to Europe because she was about to get arrested. All right. And how she got out, that's anybody's guess, right? How does a eugenicist that's performed a criminal act, killing babies, get out of this country? And then she's magically allowed to come back to this country without having to serve any time. And she starts, this is again, post World War II. She now starts advising in the administration. Well, how did that happen? Operation Paperclip, maybe bringing in some Nazis. Maybe we have a little Alan Dulles doing some dark things, everybody, right? So what you start getting to is an understanding that wherever you see the word control, this is a telltale sign that you are dealing with a eugenicist. Centers for Disease, what? Control. And the rest of it is and prevention. But isn't it interesting how they never say CDC-P? They never say Center for Disease Control and Prevention. It's always Centers for Disease Control, because that's what they care about, is control. Margaret Sanger, what is she talking about? Birth control. What are these WEF clowns talking about right now? Population control.
Actually, I'll jump in quickly. Here's a few quotes. Yeah. These are Margaret Sanger quotes. I haven't read these particular quotes. Maybe I've come across a couple of these things, but I'll read a few of these. We should hire 3 or 4 colored ministers, preferably with social service backgrounds and with engaging personalities. The most successful educational approach to the Negro is through a religious appeal. We don't want the word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population. Okay, another quote. Eugenic sterilization is an urgent need. We must prevent multiplication of this bad stock, referring to the African Americans. 3, this is actually the worst thing. The most merciful thing that a family does to one of its infant members is to kill it. Like,
what?
It's like, look at literally the most merciful thing that a family does to one of its infant members is to kill it. Mm-hmm. That was Margaret Sanger, published in The Woman Rebel, Volume 1, Number 1, in 1922.
1922.
And another one, birth control. Birth control. There you go. Birth control must lead ultimately to a cleaner race. Mm-hmm. So all the liberals are all about BLM and Planned Parenthood. Mm-hmm. Here you go.
There you go. Right. So all these women that are out there, especially, I think there was in a state, there was now you can abort the baby all the way up to the day of it. Maybe it wasn't a state, maybe it was a country that was doing this. But this is how you went from in the early 1900s, couldn't find a physician that would support this woman's psychopathic nature and tendencies, to today having whole rallies about how it's a woman's right. It's a woman's right to murder her child in womb. Like, is there any greater crime against God than murdering a child in a womb? Like, this, and if you've ever dealt with women, and I of course have, that have had these procedures done, you talk to them beforehand, they're scared. They're scared about the future, what's going to happen. They don't know that they can actually be a great mom in almost every case that I've talked to. Yes, you can be a great mom. Yes, it's going to be hard. Nothing's harder than being a mom. You know what I mean? That's why we need you to be that. You are everything about humanity is centered around a woman being able to develop life in her body, and then feed that life when that body comes out. Everything is about that central theme right there. Well, Margaret Sanger and her psychopathic control, what they don't tell you about Margaret Sanger is, number one, she loved to cuckold her husband. She actually, there's stories of her going to Europe to have sexual orgies, because that's what eugenicists do, of course, too, to have an orgy party while her husband could not participate but had to watch. This is the type of woman that you're talking about right here. This is a woman that is all bent on, as you saw in the quote, it's her words, she could not stand black people and she wanted them eradicated because black people, in her opinion, polluted the gene pool. And she certainly didn't want anybody like me running around where my dad is black and my mother's white. Like, I would be the biggest abomination to this woman, right? So what you have to understand is, why is this person, or at least you have to question, why is this person have any sway over any policies or anything? How did she go from being a criminal and having to flee the country to coming back and being funded with our tax dollars? How did that occur? And then what you have to understand is her role in the advent of the feminist movement and getting women to start to destroy the family structure, because it wasn't what they learned was, and this is with the New Deal from the Roosevelt administration. The reason that they went into birth certificates and they went into death certificates was simple. They wanted to know who they could tax. Prior to birth certificates, prior to death certificates, you don't know how many Americans are alive. Most Americans are living off of one income. That's one taxable income. And they got the bright idea, well, what if we had two taxable incomes? What's the benefit of that? Well, you break down the family. When mom and dad have to go to work, nobody's there to raise the children. Who gets the children? The government gets the children. And now the government gets to decide how the children are being indoctrinated. And in this case, now you get the advent of certain things like feminism and teaching women that all men suck, and teaching women that the worst thing they could be is a mother. I mean, you want to talk about psychopathic people. The worst thing you could be as a woman is a mother. The worst thing that you could be is a homemaker. There isn't a more important job in our world than being a mom, and there isn't a more important profession than being a homemaker. That's why we called it home making. It's not house making, it's home making, a place where an entire group of people can come into one living space and feel that they are at home and relax and chill the F out because mom's got this, right? Well, what happens when you start teaching little girls from the time that they're little girls that they've been wronged by a man that they've never met? What happens when you start teaching them that their best and biggest aspiration should be to be a guy and compete with guys instead, which let me say some crazy stuff right now. All right. Since I'm on my last day before I'm about to go on break, let's say some crazy shit right now. Okay. For a woman to want to be a man is a demotion. All right. Now, some women will be like, wait, you have to wrap your head around this. I got into an argument with women when I said this, Steph, the first time. I said, this is how strong the cognitive dissonance of feminism is in a woman's mind. I am telling you that the pinnacle of life itself on this planet centers around a woman. Everything works off of a woman. There isn't a more important person to protect in our society than women, especially women of childbearing age. And I include women beyond their childbearing age as well, because they carry the wisdom of passing down what a woman needs to be in order to be that homemaker, right? And create an environment that a man is not only going to want to protect, but that a man is going to want to be present in at all times. No man wants to hear how much we suck. Ladies, just spoiler alert on that one. We don't want to hear that, especially when we aren't the men that suck. If there's somebody in your past that sucked, I feel for you, right? Come here, I'll hug it. We'll hug it out. But I'm not that dude. Okay. So don't hold me to the same threats that you would want to hold that dude to. That's what feminism teaches these women. It teaches them that the worst thing that you can be is a mother. The worst thing that you could be is a homemaker. The worst thing that you could be is want to actually take care of your man and make sure your man who's out there in the world getting his ass kicked every day, pinballing around, comes home and knows he's coming home to a loving environment. Heaven forbid that that should be the message we teach from cartoons to movies to books to just regular familial conversation and community. Heaven forbid we should do that. Well, we don't do that anymore. At one time we did, and that was usually centered around the church. But we don't do that anymore. Why? This is the massive influence, the excessive influence of progressive eugenicist ideals, and brought to you predominantly like by women who were racist and horrible human beings, period, like Margaret Sanger. Margaret Sanger is, if that is your idol, if that is your person that you're saying, I liked her. I like what you are saying is you are a racist. What you are saying is you like killing babies. What you are saying is you can't stand family structures or family units. What you are saying is you hate your society. And what you're saying is you hate your country. Those are all the things that a woman like that creates. So ladies, let me say something to you just from a guy perspective. Let me let you in to the locker room conversations that guys have right now. Okay? We love you. You are at the top. We love you so much. We will put up with some craziness here. We put up with more craziness than we should. Stuff that doesn't make sense because we love you. Okay? We will fight for you. We will die for you. We will do so many things for you if you simply treat us right. I'm not talking about a dude that is not a good dude. I'm talking about good dudes. And there's a lot of good dudes out there. But if all you do is bring to the table complaints, and especially complaining about every dude you meet, nobody wants to hear that. So let me tell you what every man knows. You're at the top of the food chain. How do we know? Because we have sayings about this. Happy wife, happy life. We have sayings about this. Whatever mama wants, mama gets. We have, because we understand my job is to make sure mama stays happy. That's my job. And just like good little boys, because we're taught this to do this with our moms, just like good little boys, all we need is a little bit of praise. All we need is a little bit of praise. Make us feel, oh, I did good. Thank you. That's all we need. Who taught us that? Mom taught us that. We always wanted to impress mom and make mom proud and make mom happy and everything. Ladies, if you're not taking advantage of that, you're missing out on the key to the simplicity of what men are. We want to please you. We understand what our role is. Our role is to walk the perimeter and protect the central point that you are for the focus of all life. That's our job. And a good man gets that, and a good man does it. But if you hold good men up like feminism wants you to do, as being bad men, then you are going to find yourself very alone. And that's what we see going on in our world right now. A lot of women who bought into the lie of feminism brought to you by Margaret Sanger are at these ages in their life where you should be with people who love you, but you gave those people up because somebody told you that those people were bad and you believed that lie. So you young ones out there listening to me, grab your man and learn how to take care of your man. You want to learn how to take care of your man? Go to a woman who has a relationship with a man. Do not take advice from single women. Let me say this to you again. I'm going to piss a lot of ladies off with this. I don't care.
I'm already looking forward to the comments on this one.
The comments are going to be over the top. Ladies, the worst woman to take advice from when you're talking about relationship is a woman who is not in a relationship. That is the worst person to take it. They don't know what you have to do, the compromises, the sacrifice, the things you have to just let go sometimes. Yes, we leave the toilet seat up occasionally. It's not because we don't love you. We forget, right? I got stuff on my mind, right? You put the toilet seat down. It's all right. It wasn't that bad, right? I mean, you can tell me about it later. I'll fix it. You know what I mean? But sometimes I accidentally do that. That doesn't make me a bad dude, right? But the thing I want to get across to is just, we are here to work for you if you know how to push the right buttons. And too many women think it's just sex. And too many women think it's just food. No, it's how you make us feel. It's the same thing for you, for us to you, how we make you feel. It comes down to that. And the lie of feminism is that you can be happy without a man. That's the lie, that you can be happy without knowing the fulfillment of raising a child. That's a lie, that you can be happy without a group of people that are centered around you as we should be, because everything rotates and revolves around you as the universe. You are at the top of the food chain being a woman. We don't exist as a people on this planet without you. There is no reason to relegate yourself to wanting to be a man. There is no reason for it. It is a demotion. Please do not take that demotion, because that's what feminism is offering you. A demotion into competing with a man when you are already superior to what a man is. Now, you want to give me some hate mail? You want to come at me? Come at me. I'll talk with you with love. Maybe, I don't know. I've been pretty hot under the collar on Twitter, and recently. I'm not going to promise that. You say something stupid to me, I'm going to say something stupid back to you. Okay, that's just who I am. You hit me, I'm going to hit you back. That's who I am. Just so everybody knows. Okay, you come at me with respect, I'm going to come back at you with respect. You come at me with love, I'm going to come back with you with love. But if you talk some ish to me, I'm going to go off on you, okay? Because I don't care whether you're man or women, because I treat women equal to men, I guess. That's what feminism taught me to do. So anyway, everybody, getting back to the point of this, the wearables. Why is this such a big deal? And what you've hopefully gotten out of what I've shared with you today. We have been lied to our entire lives. Eugenicists have been in control for the last 140 years, and probably a lot longer than that. But I'm saying since things massively changed in this country, since 1871, eugenicists have been in control. Now, clearly in the early parts and up until the 1920s, they weren't all the way in control. That's why Margaret Sanger has to flee. But now at this point, they're in absolute control. And how do we know? We can't even get a stupid shot that's killed over 40,000 people that we know of off the market. That's 40,000. 40,000 people, the shot that has killed more people than all the other shots combined is the mRNA shot. You cannot argue that in any way, shape, or form. We can't get that off the market. And our guy is in the place with the stroke of the pen authority who can do that. I got into a big argument with Jamel Holly last week over this, because he kept saying without any evidence that he can't do that. And I showed him the evidence that he can. I showed him the legal authority of the Secretary of the Health and Human Services. And that's just one little part of his full legal authority. Today, Secretary Kennedy could say very simply, I am revoking the FDA approval. I'm overriding and revoking simply because the data that was submitted was fraudulent. I will give Pfizer, Moderna, X amount of time to prove the safety and efficacy. And then at that time, we will reevaluate the data and we will consider their application anew. He could do that. He could have done that from day one. And I advised them to do that from day one. They didn't want to do that. They wanted to go after Fruit Loops. That's stupid. Okay. So Fruit Loops weren't killing our children. These shots are. And these shots are part of the entire chemtrail, 5G, Internet of Bodies thing. You have to understand that when we're talking about these shots and the Arcturus 2304, we aren't just talking about like, we got to get these out and everything's going to be great. No, there's another piece of the pie, 5G. No, there's another piece of the pie coming, 6G. No, there's another piece of the pie, W-band, that's coming. No, there's another piece of the pie, the blue light spikes coming off and activating Trojan horse bioweapons that they're releasing. And no, there's another part of it. Because why is this happening? Because we have an unholy alliance that we have not checked. The military-industrial complex in bed with the cult of Asclepius, that started with COVID and maybe a little bit before. Okay, that's why you started hearing them say, doctors saying, well, it's an acceptable number of casualties. I heard doctors saying that. And that's when you look at the shots and we say, hey, 40,000 people died, pull the shot. And they say, no, that's an acceptable number because look how many people did it. That's not medicine anymore. That's how a military thinks, acceptable casualties. Well, now who did they just bring in a big, big way? Silicon Valley. And how do we know this? There are people in Silicon Valley with no military training, no military background that just got promoted to lieutenant, just got sworn in as lieutenants in the United States Army. And where are those people from? Of course, Palantir and healers. You have to understand this is such a evil, unholy alliance that it sets us up into the potential that I do not want to see our children get brought into, the meat grinder that is slavery. Even if it's slavery by a different name, it's still slavery. There you go. Look at that. Metaboss, right? Oh, Zucker. God, I wish I could say the name I have for him on air. But what I want to get across is that if you haven't done your homework and at least started reading on the Internet of Bodies, you have to read. Look at this. These are people, not a day of training. Yes. I don't know if these are the actual people or what.
Yeah, these are. Yeah, this is says Army Chief of Staff General Randy A. George officers. Swears in 4 new officers in Virginia. Pretty sure that I think that was June 13th, 2015.
Andrew Bosworth, the boss.
Yep.
Right. This is ridiculous.
Here's what's crazy, right?
It's called all the way up at lieutenants.
It's called Detachment 201.
Detachment
right?
201. Event
201. It's just like, I mean, how crazy, just like taking everything that you're kind of talking about, just taking a step back. Let's just imagine.
Yeah.
Let's imagine that all this was happening under Kamala Harris. Say she won, and say her, kind of head of HHS was Pete Buttigieg, just for, who knows what to say it was, right? Imagine if that all this was happening under that administration, where we're seeing
in our minds,
we're seeing, oh my gosh, they're swearing in Silicon Valley, kind of executives into high positions in the Army. They're merging, they're bringing Palantir, this massive military industrial complex program, right? And Silicon Valley, in so many ways, is just a front for the military industrial complex, right? I mean, Facebook wasn't invented by Mark Zuckerberg. It was invented by DARPA as LifeLog, and they closed it down. They rebranded it so the public would accept it because they're smart. So that way we're all voluntarily giving them all of our data, right? And you see, wow, Elon Musk, he buys Twitter. He's all about free speech. No, he bought one of the world's largest data harvesting platforms on earth, right?
Yes.
It's like the whole thing. Like it's like, oh, well, how did he get his money? Well, military industrial complex contracts. So like, again, if you saw this all happening under Kamala Harris, the same people that are just they're saying trust the plan, or that are saying, look, it's I won't turn my back on Trump or whatever. Like I still have a lot of hope for Trump. There's some things that I hope that he makes the right decision.
Right.
Same with RFK Jr. Like I prefer them over the other option, hands down. However, it's my job to look at this objectively and say, whoa, this is not good. RFK coming out saying that he wants every American with wearables.
Right.
I don't.
And Seth, this is where you're right over target. Remove the names. This is what I've been teaching people. Remove the names. Remove your emotional attachment to the person that you don't even know.
Exactly.
Okay. You don't know these people. Okay. Remove it and just look at the action. Would you be okay if this was Kamala Harris doing this? Would you be okay if this was Biden doing this? No, not at all. I got to wear a wearable. No, I'm not doing, and I have to pay for it too. No, I'm not doing that. Why? Because I don't, first and foremost, why? F you. That's why, right? Number one, right? That's what a free person says.
My body, my choice, right?
Right. My body, my choice apply now, because that's my body and it's my choice. But why don't I want to have a wearable on? A lot of reasons. You have to appreciate symbology. Why did they have everybody wear a mask that they knew would not work, and everybody knew would not work? Why did you need that? Because you needed the symbology of subservience. Masking was a tactic used during slavery to silence slaves and to make sure that there was no potential for groups forming. This is why they made sure you take different slaves and you drop them off in different areas, because now they don't know the language of the other slaves that are around. It takes a long time to come together, and then you'll still have people that are like, screw this, I'm out of this, and those people you grab and you castrate them. You castrate them immediately in front of everybody else to watch so they can see how painful it is. And then you get to put that person who you've castrated out amongst that same group. And now that person is a shell of themselves, okay, for the rest of their lives. This is all intentional. This is the whole idea of the whipping boy. You have one person, one of the slaves that you just beat the absolute crap out of, no matter whether they did something wrong or not, just to constantly send a message to everybody that's watching. You don't want this, okay? So when you're looking at the masking, it's part of a larger symbology. And we saw the whipping boy syndrome. How many doctors who were speaking out had magical stuff coming from their state boards? My state board, the reason I didn't get anything was because I told on myself every time. I got a letter from the attorney from the state board, Seth, telling me that I have to stop telling on myself. Because I said, you're going to hear it from somebody else. Somebody's going to make up something I said. I might as well just tell you what I said, straight away. And I might as well have my attorney tell you what I said, right? But there's the masking right there. And you see the little device? There's your 6 feet distancing right there. Keep people away from each other. This was all slavery in modern times. It was by a different name. Right there. You're seeing it right there. Okay. What is a wearable? Look at that. Look what's around that slave's neck that has the mask on. Look at it. What's around the neck? There's your wearable right there. And what is that wearable doing? 2 very destructive things for your future and especially for your freedom. First and foremost, it's reporting your whereabouts and all of your biometric data. And if you think that they're going to keep that private, if you think they're only going to take certain things that they tell you, you are a fool. Okay. The second thing that it's doing in this case, just like there's pictures of slaves that have the chains carved into their body and basically leading to gangrene and ripping up their ankles and all this other stuff. What this wearable is going to do is going to emit alternating current in the form of radio frequencies, because it has to have 2 ways. It's got to be an antenna and it's got to be able to send. So it's got just like your phone. Instead of your phone, which I have, and I turn all the antennas off. There's no antennas on my phone right now while I'm not using it. I keep my phone on a grounding mat to make sure that any of the radio frequencies don't affect my body. I touch a grounding mat when I touch my phone to make sure that I'm not being impacted adversely by what this phone can do. I go to great lengths to make sure I know what I'm doing with their technology so I can use it and not have it kill me. A wearable now is on your body 24 hours a day. It is using electricity, and your body is electric, and it will compete with your body's electricity. The wearable is going to damage your body, period. RFK Jr. knows about this. He's spoken about this before he was confirmed. He knows this. There's no such thing as a safe wearable. So what do they tell you? Well, the good outweighs the bad. Really? The good for you outweighs the bad for me? No, that I agree with. The good for me outweighing the bad for me? No, I don't agree with that. So no, I don't. How did we manage to get here thousands of years without wearables? Gee, I wonder, right? Maybe we had figured some stuff out, a little bit. So what I'm getting across to people is this is yet another major step forward in their agendas. This is yet another major step forward in the Internet of Bodies. This is Klaus Schwab, what he's advocating for. Why would you ever go along with anything Klaus Schwab is advocating for? And now this is something that RFK Jr. spoke out against, but then magically 2 people show up in his life out of nowhere. We have never heard of these people. I've been around for a long time, folks. Callie and Casey Means show up. What companies do they run that have been, of course, propped up, very much like the Facebook? Which companies they run? TrueMed and Levels. Now, Levels is run by Casey Means, or at least she's the figurehead for it. And what is it? a biometric monitoring surveillance system. So isn't it interesting how RFK Jr. talks openly about there being no conflicts of interest? Isn't that interesting? There should be no conflicts of interest, but that the largest conflicts of interest are occurring right now with Casey and Callie Means. And isn't it interesting how Callie Means, who lied about being a lobbyist, isn't it interesting that Callie Means has been steering this whole HHS MAHA approach since he showed up out of nowhere? Isn't it interesting that he steered it into talking about beef tallow, and then talking about Fruit Loops, and then talking about Skittles? Isn't it interesting that they're saying we don't have to change any federal regulations? These companies will do it on their own in 2 years. That's the win. The companies will get all this stuff out of all these horrible food dyes. Okay, so now you guys leave office. What's going to prevent them from going back? Can you explain that to me? Because you haven't changed, you haven't banned anything. You haven't said, hey, you told me that there's only 400 approved chemicals in the European Union, but here there's over 10,000. You haven't shown me that you have a willingness to ban at least one of those 10,000. And you're going to trust a bunch of liars in corporate America that only care about their bottom line to be good people. This is this ridiculous idea of altruism that Kennedy seems to be married to. But what is Kennedy when you get down to it? Oh, are we going to go there? Yeah, Seth, we're about to go there. Kennedy identifies himself as a progressive. And this is what you have to watch about all of these folks that came from the Democratic side of things into MAHA to support MAGA. The vast majority of them see themselves as progressives. And that's without understanding what a progressive really and truly is. Now, Kennedy, I don't know if he really and truly understands what a progressive is. But the vast majority of people that call themselves progressives do not realize they are calling themselves eugenicists. At one time, before I learned all this, I used to consider myself a progressive. Why? Because it sounds good to be progressive about something, right? Except when progressive means experimenting on children using CRISPR. Except when progressive means everybody having a wearable attached to their body 24 hours a day, throwing off their electricity. Except when it means that we are approving cancer salmon flesh grown in a petri dish for entry into our food supply without any studies to support its safety, efficacy, or even necessity. You want to eat some salmon? Clean up the oceans. We are also, it's a bad idea to consider yourself progressive when you are supporting the mRNA shots in any capacity, but especially the Arcturus 2304 self-amplifying platform. All things that through his actions, Secretary Kennedy has shown support for. He has even gone so far as to say that our greatest innovation in the future will be CRISPR and the genetic modification of the human genome. That is a far cry departure from anything he said before he was confirmed. So,
and we won't even get into Operation Stork Speed.
Yeah. And then we have, of course, along with that, the mNEX spike that gets approved for the mRNA shots before anything, right? It's just healers. Walks like a duck. It talks like a duck. It's a duck. Okay. Let's not kid ourselves that what we're seeing is okay. You have to have the courage to remove the name of the person that you like and say, what would I say about this if it was coming from somebody I didn't like? Because as soon as you do that, you've entered into what Seth is teaching you, which is about being objective.
It's also
being objective. Go ahead.
As we're kind of wrapping up here, it's not just saying, what if this is coming from somebody that I didn't like? It's, what if this is coming from somebody that I wasn't hoping was going to come save me?
Right.
Because it's a big difference. If you just don't like somebody, or if you like somebody, but if you think someone's going to come in and they're going to do all the things that you think are going to save our children and save our skies, and you're really putting that person in a very special place. Mm-hmm. It's different than like, oh, I like the Tigers and you like the Mets and you know whatever, right? It's yeah, but it's crazy putting it all together. Yeah,
Yeah, when you get take, and that's why I've been saying to everybody, no sacred cows, especially not me. Don't you ever do that to me. I will check you. Okay. No sacred cows. Don't put anybody on a pedestal. Everybody's held to the same standard, right? Is what you're doing good or not good? And it's pretty black and white in today. And they can try to dress it up however they want. What did RFK Jr. tell you his job is? My job, quote unquote, is to help restore trust in vaccines in Americans. No. That's not why we supported you, dude, to send you into Washington. We sent you in there to ban vaccines. And if all you did was ban the COVID vaccine, it over the 4 years, massive win. That's all you, and don't tell Jamil Holly, bruh, we've gone at it once. Respect you, completely disagree with you. He has the authority today to do that. So you have to ask, why isn't he doing it if it's in his heart to do it? Well, that would mean that there's somebody controlling him. Okay, well, now who's controlling you? But the bigger question, Seth, is why are you allowing yourself to be controlled? Why not just ban it, go for big air? They're going to file lawsuits and everything. You're going to lose your job. They might even kill you. But I don't think they can, because now that would be 3 Kennedys that have been mysteriously offed. And with everything that people know today about how there are certain groups from other countries who have been a little bit too involved in how politics go in our country, I don't think that's going to turn out too well. But maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe Americans are just too sheepish now. I don't know.
Well, I think what's important is that we have conversations just like this. Mm-hmm. This is what's important, is that we talk openly about this. I might have people in the comments saying, "You've turned your back on Trump. You're a turncoat." I'm like, no, I haven't. I'm holding him to the standard that I expect him or RFK or any of these people that I put in effort towards helping to advance their political career, the various things I have control over doing. I'm holding them to the standard that I expect, and it's pretty black and white for me. And so that's the thing.
And you're right, Seth, and you're right on with that. So can we address that real quick?
Please do.
For anybody that wants to bring heat. Okay, I have questions for you because I like to ask questions. Do you love Trump more than you love your country? That's a real question. I love my country more than I love any one person in politics. Do I hope that person has the same love for my country that I have? Yes. And has he professed that he has the same love that I have for my country? And I have no reason not to believe him, but I have a lot of questions because his actions aren't always matching that up. And that's fair for me to be able to say. But there's one other question that's even more important for everybody. Do you love somebody in politics more than you love God? Because I'm going to tell you straight up, I work for God. And God has told me in no uncertain terms to speak truth. My job is to say what makes people uncomfortable, to say the things that people are thinking, feeling, but not necessarily saying yet. And if that means I got to take heat to do it, I got to take heat to do it. But that also means that you bring heat to me, I'm going to bring heat back to you as well. Because I am not in this for ideology. I'm not in this to be a religious, part of a cult. I'm in this to help get us back on track. We are so far off the rails right now that the very future of humanity and our children and our grandchildren's future is in doubt today. And if we're not willing to have that conversation about why is it in doubt and what do we need to do as individuals and as a collective to restore the promise of freedom to future generations, then we have failed every single person that has provided us with the perception of freedom that we think we have today. And don't tell me that you're a patriot in doing that. Sabby?
That's it, man. Dr. Ely, before we sign off, I want to bring up 2 different websites quickly. One of them is your website, energetichealthinstitute.org. Recommend people checking the website. I'll put the links in the description. Anything and everything about what you're doing here. You've also got a new book you just came out with. I'll put this in the description as well. The Book of Questions. And you want to just give a quick kind of elevator pitch for this?
Yeah,
let us know what it is.
We've been through so much, Seth, the last 5 years. I mean, pretty much everybody who's been involved with this is dealing with trauma in some form of relived pain, especially with each new thing that comes out that's not in our favor, right? And so I've been very blessed by God to have received a number of visions about what happens when we pass, when we transition. I think one of the big ways to eliminate a control system is to remove any fear of death. I think that's one of their strongest control mechanisms is fear of death. And my message from God that I've been privileged to be able to write about and share is that there's nothing to fear. And I want to share those stories with you. I also share stories from my life, like when my mother was killed by the cult of Asclepius in the hospital, and I want people to understand you're not alone, not by a long shot. And God has never given up on you. We've been through a lot. I don't want to talk about COVID all the time. I want to talk about things that actually have spiritual significance for us. Because when we find our spiritual strength, we find the courage to be able to do what I want to create in this world. And I hope you do too. I want to make evil fear us for a change. I want to live in a world where we love each other and evil is terrified of that. And we can do that. We can create that together. So this is one of my first forays into that more of self-help topic. You don't have to, it doesn't take years and years and years to overcome trauma, folks. I've been helping people overcome trauma for my entire career. It just takes a moment for you to make the decision that you are going to overcome it and you're going to do something deliciously dangerous, that you're going to transform any pain that you've experienced in your past into strength in your future. And all that is a decision that you have the right and freedom to be able to make when you are ready to make that decision. The Book of Questions will help you get to that moment a lot faster than you thought possible.
Dr. Ely, such a pleasure speaking with you. I hate that we've got a time limit. I think we could go for another couple of hours.
Probably.
But I know that this was last minute because I was trying to respond quickly to the announcement with RFK. I know you're the guy for it. Thank you for doing what you're doing. Thank you for giving me and the audience your time. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to our next conversation. This was great. It's really important. And I hope that anybody that's made it this far in and that isn't all upset about being feminist or whatever it is, share this video, right? Share the video, share the podcast. Let's get more people having these conversations. It's really, really important.
Amen. And Seth, I want to say thank you to everybody in your audience for listening, even for a moment. And it's okay for us to disagree. You know what I mean? That's as long as we are not disagreeable with each other, that we still respect each other and show that in what we do. The only time you're going to get a side of me that you see sometimes on social media is if I feel like I'm being disrespected. I will not be disrespected, and certainly not in public. Like that is not going to happen. But on the other side of it, I want to say, Seth, to you, thank you so much for creating this forum and giving people the opportunity to hear and have these conversations and being that really key, important cog in the wheel of healing. Because I really believe in my heart that's where we are heading, is into the healing of our nation. We have clearly some more trauma that we got to go through, which drives me up the wall because it's really unnecessary, but I guess we got to do it. But I think if we hold fast to our faith and remember that to God goes all the glory, it starts making things a lot easier for us. And all we got to do is the work. And I don't know about you, Seth. I'm a worker. I like doing that work.
Oh, me too. Me too.
You know?
Well,
so thank you.
Thank you again, man. Yeah. It's wonderful speaking with you. Hey, folks, I've got a quick but really important update. So right now, DC politicians are trying to kill the very tax credits that are helping bring manufacturing back from China and putting American workers on the job. These credits are fueling U.S. energy independence, rebuilding our supply chains, and hitting the Chinese Communist Party where it hurts. And look, this isn't theory. It's actually happening. We're talking real factories, real jobs right here on American soil. But if they repeal these credits, we're going to lose millions of jobs. We got over $1 trillion from our economy, and we hand China a massive win. So here's the deal. President Trump, don't let Congress pull the plug on America's comeback. Stand firm. Protect the energy tax credits. Keep putting America first.